I don't know if we're gonna be able to stay with Pretzel or any music really, which is too bad. Isitsu, hello. Power. Oh yeah. So I think it took about another hour or so. I ended up going out to a cafe, and then I got text messages from the power company saying, "Hey, it's back on now, or it should be back on. Let us know if it's not." And by the time I got home, it was on. So that was that. Off by John. Hello. Okay, so I was trying to get everything set up. I'm trying to also set up a new mouse is on the wrong computer. There we go. Trying to set up a new a workspace for this. So it's just, the full stack Rust to do course. And so what am I doing? Wait, I need to right. So when I run these tests, you're not found. You can't find anything. Undefined. I wonder, do I want to run this in the? I can't remember if I want to run this uh in like the Docker container, or if I run this externally. I think externally is fine, but I must not be in the right directory for this, or maybe I don't have like the right. Oh, right, right. I remember now. There's this .env. I need to source the .env, and then that should work. Yeah, now I get 404s. Okay, that's what I expected. Okay, so we're now at the point where it's attempting to actually read the database when it hits sign up and find the the user ID. Uh, but that's not happening. Also, I'm curious like where. Okay, I want to pull this into. Can I? Add folder workspace. Let's go to here. Okay, yeah. So backend tests. Here's what's happening down here. Okay, so it's on line 34. All right, so test sign up. So we send a user name password to our backend. Uh, we expect, okay, to have a data back. Inside of data, we expect to, okay, we check the logged in user. That passed. Then we get the user from the database based on the username. And we expect that the created at user ID. So the ID that we send back in our data should be the same ID that we have in the database. And already it's failing. Well, it's failing because it can't get anything from the database. So our tests are kind of discovering that we haven't connected a database to the API yet. So that's what we need to do. Now we have a database set up for us, and I believe it doesn't matter which one. I believe we can do a Docker compose. Yes, here is, yeah, database is running, and we can connect. We should be able to connect to it and set it up, or at least I think we just connect to it. So I want to go a little do. Yeah, it's talking hard. Go do a little bit of research on diesel. let's see. Let's go to crates and we'll search for diesel. There's been a whole bunch of other ones recently. CORM, or I think that's what it is. CORM is becoming pretty popular. I think diesel is still the most popular, and it just went to 2.0. So that's a big deal. Okay, so they have an extensive getting started tutorial. Let's see what's changed. It's been a long time since I've looked at diesel. I don't even know if they were 1.0 the last time I looked at them. Okay, so we have diesel, CD into that. Okay, interesting. So we're gonna have to add in a feature for this. Okay, so let's first add in diesel. Okay, so with the learning Axum, we're gonna do cargo add what? How did I copy that? Cargo add. That was my to-do list. I include things like empty Zilbius kitty litter. Uh, diesel, I think that's how to spell it. Oh, I did S instead of C. That's what happened. Okay, and then we need Postgres. Okay, there it is. Okay. Diesel provides a separate CLI tool to help manage your project. Since it's a standalone binary and doesn't affect your project's code directly, we don't add it to cargo.toml. Instead, we just install it. Okay, so we're going to need a diesel CLI. All right, well, hopefully it should work just fine. Or not. Okay, so we have this clang error linker command failed. Okay, so it's clang. I guess I'm missing clang. Linking with CC failed. Yeah. Interesting. I don't think that that was the problem. Okay, so we're missing. Okay, so CC. Oh, stacking. Hello. You're missing the DLL to libpg. Is that? Oh. Is it libpg or libpq? Interesting. Oh, you know what? I didn't. I looked at this line and I didn't look at this line. That's literally what it is. Okay, so I need um libpq. Can I install that with brew? Okay. Apparently it's just that one. If I do info on it, that's what I think it is. Postgres C APA library. Yeah, let's do it. Okay, let's try it again. What are we doing? We were cargo install this. Let's try it again. So when we go and create a course on this, we're gonna have to cover that. And I wonder how I want to deal with it. Another one. Okay. Oh, okay. For example, if you only have Postgres installed, you can use this to install DSL CLI with only PostgreSQL. This is what we need to do. Is actually read all the way through the instructions. I've become that kind of user that I used to hate as a systems administrator, the one that just doesn't read anything. What? No. Okay. Well, that didn't work. We could try installing these, but if we're only trying to install this one, I kind of wonder. Now, next question: is this because I don't have Postgres installed in my local system? I have Postgres installed in a Docker container. You think Homebrew changes install path or something, and it broke a lot of things? Yeah, let's turn to good old Google for this. Let's do Mac, Diesel, um, Postgres, linker, CC. This is from 7 months ago. Now they installed PostgreSQL libs. We can try it. We could try installing PostgreSQL libs. Dota, hello. Let's try that. We'll take a look at what you are. This is Postgres. Okay. There's the Postgres. What path is Clang looking for that DLL to be in? Let's see. These are always fun. It's somewhere in here, right? Oh, I can use -V to see invocation. Can I directly? I don't know if I can directly use -V because this is within the install path. or within install command. Also, maybe I just need to add it to my path potentially. So, what do I install? I installed. Yeah, I think it's gonna be installer just to install Postgres. So brew. I think okay, we can install 14. Now I want to not run the database. And I can never remember, did they start it running for me? Okay, so it started a database cluster to restart Postgres after an upgrade. Okay, so I can do, well, I'm going to leave it like this, and then maybe later I'll try to remember to do a brew services stop Postgres. But let's try that again. There we go. Okay, so we need to install Postgres on our system, which is kind of a pain. So I wonder if it would be better to just have, okay, is there a Docker search diesel? There are no official diesel Docker images. There's a bunch of other ones here. So that might be what we want to do. We might want to create a Docker image for this, for the course. And then you can use that one. The problem is diesel CLI is making a connection to the database and needs the DLL to connect. Yeah, I was hoping just having the DLL, but apparently it's probably more than just that DLL. It's probably a DLL and a database to do stuff locally. I wonder if I can like tell it, hey, there is a database. It's on a remote system. Um, it's probably possible. All right, so I've got you. We need to tell Diesel where to find our database. Oh, there was a link to another Stack Overflow page which suggests setting the PQ libdir from libpq. Oh, interesting. That could potentially work too. Although I like the idea of a Docker container a little bit more. Blue means gay. Hello. Also, Diesel is synchronous. You prefer SQLX RS. You haven't tried those yet. I know that Diesel is popular, and that's probably the reason why I'm going to be doing it in the course. Um, is it still uh synchronous, or have they made an async await version, because it's brand new 2.0. We haven't looked into it, so it's going well. How about you? It's gonna be hot today where I am at too. Um, which let's see, the high is going to be 97 supposedly, which always being a little bit hotter. And if I do 97 degrees F to C. That is 36.1111 degrees Celsius for those of you in that part of the world. So I'm feeling cold right now because I'm in a basement. It hasn't heated up yet, but it's going to. It's going to get very hot. Awesome. That's great. Okay. Now I do not need migrations because we already have those set up in the database is already done. Is that true? I want to say that we've set up the database already. But that was the front end type things. Looks like Clang is looking for it inside of user local opt, libpq, lib, user local opt, libpq include. And I bet that's where it puts it if you install Postgres. Interesting. Interesting. The CLI inside of a Docker container, I kind of like that idea the most. So I can still use async await, but async await. So this is a super good point. Async await by itself does not mean asynchronous. Um, it's interesting because what was it? It can still be. It still might run and execute synchronously, and um, there's like other fun things to do. It's interesting. Okay, but I want to go investigate my database. What's the best way for me to? Well, now that I have Postgres installed, I might as well use it, right? So we're going to use PSQL -u Postgres -h localhost. Port is the normal one. -w to force a password. I think that it's like a famous saying inside of Golang: parallelism isn't concurrency. Yeah, right. And this is Keorb cat. Yeah. Hold on. So I need to. Uh, Docker Compose. Let's open that up. It is okay. So here's our database. It's running key. Oh, okay. Key orb cat because I totally misspelled that, but we're just leaning with it. There we go. Okay, so I'm in. Let's see. Async wait is just syntax, and future can actually works synchronously. There are other ways of doing it, like in parallel too, but that requires stuff, which I don't I haven't leaned enough into async await stuff to like know for certain. So that's like now I'm at the edge of my knowledge now for that. So anything more that I say will probably be wrong. Stephen Saggy Ball. I love these names today. These are great. What is learning Axum? So Axum is a backend framework in Rust. I would. Everybody likes to equate things to like Express and Node for like familiarity, but I would say like yeah, it's trying to be like a simple. It's not too um it's not too much telling you how to do stuff, but then at the same time it is. It uses macros and other things sort of make things easier for you, and it just sort of works when you like the way you want it to, and it's fairly simple but also powerful. So I like it a lot. Champ Guacamole, hello. You recently did async and Rust for the first time, and it fried your mind. I've been now doing it for a while, and it's still frying my mind if I like dive in deep. And I tried to watch that video from John Hu, and uh, just like watching him re-implement an async runtime, not runtime, the async he re-implemented futures for async await to sort of manually run those, and that was like, whoa, I am not. I need more. I need to go and do like an entire um, montage learning journey before I can like rewatch this video. Okay, so I have the database here. If I look at DT, um, okay, so I have tasks and users. Um, he is indeed. Um, is it D? Oh, I think it's DT tasks. No, it's DL. What's the one? D something to like look at what the what it actually looks like, what the structure looks like, and I forget exactly what it is. It's DS. We have tasks and users. D's nuts. Yeah, yeah, totally. D no, it's and yeah, it's fine. Trying to do WebSockets with Tunks tonight, and you basically had to park all that and go binge his live stream. Um, I find that doing is fine. I'm usually able to do. Understand and teach are two different things. So like I can teach a surface level on the many different things. Uh, going into like the more default, like going into like the in-depth stuff is gonna be much tougher. So I was able to do WebSockets. I don't remember if I did tungstenite though or not. But oh man, I did. You know why I didn't run into that problem? Because I did that project before async await came out. That's why I didn't run into that problem. Okay. Depends on async runtime, Tokyo async standard, but doesn't depend on the possibility of using async await syntax. Right. Right, because there's no and that's sort of like the decision, which was it was a decision of the language. And I go back and forth on like agreeing with them when they keep on telling us that like, hey, this is the best idea for Rust, and then not agreeing with it by like, well, what if we just have it optional but still a default one we can pull in? Basically the runtime for the async await. Like I kind of want one to be in standard that or maybe like next to standard like an official one that I can pull in optionally if I want. But it I don't really have any influence over that, and so it's more of like, okay, I'll let the really smart people about this sort of yell at each other on Twitter about it. I could just do question mark and then find out what this is. So it is D is that capital S? Describe table view syntax. Okay, it's D capital S with the S being optional. Interesting. Okay, so if I do D S has, there we go. Now we got this. Okay, so we can see we already have the database in here. And if we take a look at what we have, table tasks, Right, we have default tasks in here. Now, the reason why we have all these in here is our Docker Compose, we this one right here, we volume in and initializing SQL, which basically does a migrate up on our database. So the next question will be, should we actually do this as part of migrations in Diesel? And like, if we're going to do that, I should create a different service for not having this. And then we should handle it ourselves. Maybe we'll connect in and use this, and we won't use the migrations right away. Okay, we'll start by writing some code to show the last 5 published posts. The first thing we need to do is establish a database connection. Okay, so this is use Diesel PG connection. Bring in Prelude. Establish connection. Now I think that we can pass that around, right? So looking at learning Axum, what have we got so far? So we have our routes. So let's say I create the connection here. Then I create the router, okay, which takes us into here. Now I'm creating these, okay, handler is not necessarily helpful, but maybe I can make that handler return a function. So your handler is H, where H is a handler. I wonder if I could do a I could do a generic like this. All right, let's try this. So let's try creating a single connection inside of here. So we're going to use Diesel Prelude. Use Diesel PG. And it was PG connection. Okay. Then we're going to have this function establish connection. Which I suppose we could just put right here. You're not asynchronous. So yeah, this is, well, the establishing the connection would happen once. So that should be fine. Okay, so this is gonna be established connection. You don't take in anything and you return a PG connection. All right. Well, I believe I already bring in .env, and I believe that happens in here, right? Yes. So I have access to all my environment variables, which we're actually using a config, aren't we? Yes. So I want to actually set this in there too. Oh, which is a super good point. So in the main library, we have this config coming in. So we're going to pass in the config. which is a reference to, well, I guess it would be just a brand new arc config because we'll just clone it. We'll arc clone it. Okay, so we get the database URL from this. Okay, so I'm gonna head over into config. Let's grab database URI is a I think it's gonna come as a string, isn't it? From .env. So I could make this a stir like that. I don't know if it matters. Because I'm just gonna clone it again. So it looks like in the linker should work, and this would only be a problem with Mac users. Interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna copy that off. And we're gonna put that into, I don't really have a, let's do possible problems. Okay, so a possible problem, this is gonna be installing Diesel CLI on Mac. I'll just do that. Okay, back to you. You don't know why Homebrew broke the install path like that last year. So was it just last year? Interesting. I didn't do it last year. I did it several years ago. So that could have also been a problem. I didn't run into that specific problem again. Okay, so database URIs, let's store that here. Well, sure, I changed my mind. We'll just make this a string so I can be lazy down here. Okay, so because of that, I need the database URI from my .env, which I want to double check that that is, in fact, a good .env for me to look at. Where is this? This is under stack, okay, backend, Rust, running Axum. Oh yeah, okay. This .env is fine. So we have jot secret, which is a keyboard cat, and our port. Okay, so let's see. I want a database URI equals. This is going to be localhost. So you're upset there. So we're going to grab. Apparently, Homebrew does tell you to symlink it since the install path is broken, but who reads after installing packages? Also, well, I guess I just missed it, didn't I? Why are you upset? Shouldn't you tell me what this is? I did the same thing to owned. And then I pass you in here, right? Okay. So you're happy. Config has that. Lib, yes, I know. Okay, fine. Fine. To do. I'll put a to do in just to make you go away. Yes, I know it's never used. Don't worry about it. It's okay. It's okay. So we're gonna do a let database connection equals establish connection. Okay, so we're gonna do an arc clone and then pass in a reference to config. Okay, so I should now have access to that. Back to you. Okay, so PG connection establish database URL. Is this a Are you not going to show us the database URL? My guess is this is a connection string. Oh yeah, they did do that. That seems like they should add that into the documentation of how to create that. Is this docs on GitHub? Maybe we can make that change. Okay, so you are not that. You're a Postgres : username. So Postgres : password. I password is that at localhost 5432 slash Postgres. Okay. The database URI. Chantilly, hello. How are you doing today? All right, so I want to no music today. So I've been getting copyright claimed on YouTube. And then a couple of times Twitch has been muting some of the VODs, which I don't want. The way I've been archiving is just taking the video from Twitch and putting it up there, and I don't want that to be muted. Like if we were playing a game and like it's just game audio, like that's not nearly as bad. It's just still jarring when I watch that. Then like, hey, let's talk about actual code. Maybe I should put up. I could turn on in OBS the closed captions. Then we could just do a silent stream. Okay, so it's gonna be PG connection establish database URL. Okay, so and then this is what we're returning. So PG connection establish and a reference to config dot database URI. That's a result. So I have error. I kind of want to do a result like this with a PG connection inside of it. So we question mark U. And do that. It's a little bit weird doing that, but I'm using a different result type. I'm using the error result type. So I can question mark this, and we're good to go. Okay, so now here, this has a result here. I have this result, so I can just question mark U. Okay, so now we have our database connection. we can start directly using this, right? We also want to create a post struct into which we can read our data and have Diesel generate the names we'll use to reference tables and columns in our queries. We'll add the following lines to the top of source live.rs. Okay, so we're going to create a models and a schema module. I like the idea of, instead of doing that, because almost every framework that I've used, I create a database like a DB. And so in lib, we will mod DB. Oh, I need a mod in here. Okay, so that makes you happy. Then inside of here, we can have our models and our schema. So we need a... Now, you're having this be a folder? Are you going to put them all together? Oh, yeah, you're going to put them all in a single one. Okay, so models and schema. So models.rs, schema.rs. Okay, then we're going to create our... Okay, so we have two tables. So going back to not that terminal. Which terminal was it? This one. Okay. So we have slash what is it? DT. We have tasks and users. So okay, so we can start with in models. Which one are we doing first? Okay, in models, this is queryable. What's the difference between schema? Oh, typically the schema module isn't created by hand, it gets generated by Diesel. When we ran Diesel setup, a file called diesel.tom was created. Interesting. Okay, so I probably should go back and run that. Oh, this is where they created the .env up here. Got it. Okay, and it is a connection URL, so that's what we expected. All right, so we have this. Interesting. I wonder if it's going to be upset because it's database. I have a database URI. It's probably not going to work. It needs that to be database URL. Well, that's technically inaccurate because it's not a URL. But I'm not going to well actually them. We'll just go over here and make it a URL. Okay, so if I have you, then in main, oh, I can still grab it from this, but you have to be an L in here, and then the rest of it is fine. The rest, everything else is okay. In our, not that one. Do I have any? Yeah, I have you. Oh, we're back up here in database tests, so I need another one here. Okay, so please don't forget to source for the 10th time. What? When have I ever forgotten to source? I mean, it can't. Come on. Also, look at this. They create the .env. They do not source it. So I don't think I need to source it. I think it just works. I think it just works. So let's find out. Diesel setup. And this is where I have that, right? Yeah. So Diesel setup. What options do we have here? Location of the configuration file to use falls back to the Diesel config file. Environment variable unspecified defaults to diesel.toml in your project root. Okay, so that should be fine. Database URL falls back to the database URL environment variable if unspecified. Oh, I wish I could tell it what the environment variable would be. Migration directory. The location of your migration directory by default is looking for migrations. Okay, so I don't have that. All right, well, we're gonna do this. Okay, so Diesel setup. Let's find out. Do you work? Kind of work. Okay, so you created a diesel.toml. Now I have we have a migrations file folder. I noticed that there was no options to not do migrations. They did not create their own schema, okay, in here. Okay, but in the diesel.toml file, okay, so look at this, print schema. So source, I want source/db schema.rs. Migrations directory is migrations. Okay, great. Happy to do that. Now, now we're back in I wonder if I can now tell it to run this command again. So diesel, what are my choices? Completions, database, migrations, print schema, print stable definitions for database schema. Maybe that one? How about database? That's probably not it. The other one was print schema. Okay, that seems to work. Print schema. Can I tell it to go into a file? No? And that didn't create it, right? No. I was really hoping this would well, I guess this prints it to the screen, doesn't it? I want to auto generate that and throw that in there, but I could do another setup. Does that throw it in here? No. So I don't know if there's anything else to do in here besides redirect the output to source db schema. And so then inside of here, now we have, okay, our DSA table, like that. Yeah, which does look like these. Okay, so we're good there. Models we need to set up. We need the prelude for diesel. Okay, derive queryable. Interesting. So, gonna derive queryable. Yep. And then we have our struct post. Okay, so we have users. Pub struct. Okay, so pub struct. We have users, and then we also have pub struct tasks. Is that what they are? Yeah, tasks and users. Okay, so have those two in here. We have to fill these out. These are going to be basically the types that match what we have in the database. So looking inside of here, I'm just going to put this down there. So I want a DS. Is there a difference between lowercase s and uppercase s for what are we doing first? Users. There is. Okay, so we have an ID. Are these public? They are public. Okay, so pub ID is a integer, so I32. Username is, now I have this as a character varying 64. And you have that as just a string. Interesting. Stephen, okay, so you're coming in from JavaScript. Why are structs useful? So in Rust, everything is like very, 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 very strongly typed to the point where I can't just do things normally. I have to do stuff in something else. So I can't just create an object willy-nilly because it wouldn't know what type that it was. Now in TypeScript, you can use an interface for just like an object and just sort of create them willy-nilly like that, but not so in Rust. In Rust, if I want to create an object, I have to use something called a struct. And so this is kind of, sort of, but not exactly like a class in JavaScript. So this, like, think of it like I'm describing what the object I want to be is. So I'm basically saying I want an object, it's going to have a property ID on it, and that type is going to be an integer, a 32-bit integer. It also is going to have a username, which is going to be a string. And then later on, somebody can instantiate this into an object. So like a class, but with only constructor that assigns all values what you give. Well, and what's really interesting is that Rust doesn't have constructors by default. So you don't even get the constructor with Rust. You just get the ability to define what this is going to look like. And then when I instantiate it, it is going to hold me to that. And if I try to deviate, it won't compile. So there's some other like sort of niceties about structs. They're not quite like classes memory wise, but that like coming from JS, you're not going to need to know any of the other like more like in-depth things until you're like diving really deep into Rust. Okay, so does that answer your question? If it doesn't, ask more, and I will do my best. 42, a struct won't allow you to make that mistake. Oh wait, I saw the obj hit points and I thought that was like a username, and I was just read that. Imagine you want to set the hit points of an object and you write object hit points equals 42. A struct won't allow you to make that mistake. Yes. Oh yeah, because yeah, absolutely. So there's more coding. So what I have noticed in strongly typed languages, generally speaking, you do more coding. But that coding is also about like, here's the safety stuff. I'm declaring what I want to do. And then later on, you do that, and then it yells at you by saying, "Hey, you declared one thing, but then did another." Silly programmer. Um, let's see. Okay, so username, we have a password. Um, can I say that the password isn't queryable? We're gonna put this in here, but we're gonna have to play around with that. Password. Deleted at. So pub deleted at. Now this is a timestamp. So I wonder if I can put this as like a date time. Do you have? Okay, yeah, it figures out what these are. Okay, these are the actual types in the database. All right, so before we continue on, I want to go look at their API docs. I want to see what types. I don't know if this is. That doesn't feel right. Guides. That's literally the thing we were just on. Okay. Is there what's a date? I guess you'll just be a string. Oh, but you know what? You're an option. So you're an option. Sure, with a string inside. Why not? And then finally, we have a token, which is also an option with a string inside. Okay, so that's you. TAS. You are an ID, a priority. A priority is a character variant 4, which I think we were doing like priority of like 1, 2, 3, 4, but this is going to come in as a string. So also an option string. We have a pub title, which has to exist. Pub completed at, which is an option string. Okay, so you may be confused about like, what is this option thing? Have any of you not seen options before? Description. do that. Okay, so I want the user ID. I32. We'll just call them the anti-billion-dollar mistake. You know, someday somebody's going to write an article called like "Unwrap is the billion-dollar mistake" because they did the exact same thing with an option but then unwrapped it and still caused the bug. And it's like, well, it's clearly the language's fault. They gave me the foot gun and then I used it on my foot. Is default option full. So I recently I read an article that the person who invented the type system, so he invented null as like in object oriented programming for like the types going around. He added that in not because he thought it was a good idea, but because it was easy. And he's like, "Oh, let me sort of predict what things we're going to want to do." And then that was like, well, this is super easy to just add a check to see if it's null or not and just allow it to pass through. And that, yeah, he said he regrets it. You believe the universe is 100% deterministic, so options are a myth. Yeah, that's that is yeah. That we can go for that. Options are a myth. There are no options. We should just unwrap them all because they have to exist. Null is something. And like, hey, if you have an option, you can unwrap it. Doesn't everybody want to unwrap a present? So therefore, we should always unwrap them whenever we can. Okay, so I created the models here. So back to you. Okay, so we added our models in. The schema's been generated. A note on field order. Using derived queryable assumes that the order of fields on the post struct matches the columns in the post table. So make sure to define them in the order seen in the schema.rs file. That feels like a foot gun right there. Maybe not a foot gun. Maybe that's the wrong term because that just feels like a like just a weird thing. So like that should yell at me, like in the editor then, if this doesn't work and tell me specifically why. Let's write the code to actually show us our posts. Okay, so now we have our connection. Where did this come from? Oh, there, right. Establish connection. That was the function we already created. I was like, why is it not here? Do they not need it anymore? Okay, so use self schema post DSL. Interesting. Okay. These are always the fun thing about working with macros is like you get this type of stuff where you're like, where is that defined? It's like, well, it's magic. Magic isn't always terrible. Sometimes it's good. So I want to do this. Let's bring it back up there. I want to do this in let's open this up in routes. Sure. Let's do this. In create user. Can we just skip to create? Actually, you know what? We've got something else. Let's create another hub async function get user. Do I have users? I have a delete. It's not deleted at. I need to reset this database. I bet it's not deleted at. Or maybe I undeleted it in a test. I don't remember anymore. But we have tasks. So let's do. Let's add a function to save. Okay, we just do this. Here, we'll just follow this one. So we're going to insert into users table. Okay, so use create schema. Okay, so inside this function, so we have to have our connection come in it. So this is where it gets a little bit interesting. In create user, this is just directly coming into, it's directly handling that, which I need to get the connection passed in here. So what I'm thinking about doing is having a function that returns the create user function. So let's say I do this. Pub function create user route. You take in a connection, which you're saying could be a mutable reference to a PG connection. I don't need anything else in here. And we're going to return whatever this is. Let's find out. Now I'm going to return create user like that. Mismatch types, expected nothing. Bound function, Axum, JSON, impl future output equals user response, create user. Can I actually do this as a generic though? So can I do something like T? I'm going to return T. So we're going to take in a T where T where were you? It's my router. Okay, so create router. So we get the app, routes, create router. Oh, right, it's here. So get handler, where H is this handler with a T and B. And okay, T is, okay, so I basically just want this entire where. It's like that. Okay, so A T H B. That okay. I'm running out of time, so I have a I know it's a day off for me, but I have some people coming over and I have some things to do at 8:30, which means I have less than 10 minutes to wrap this up. Okay, so how do I do multiple of these again? Wrong one. I want to be in here. Get oh, do you put, where do I put the where in a function? I do that, and then I do this. Do I do the where before the block opens. So I do this like that. Take you, cut you out, have you here like this, T. Okay. Now I pull in handler. Okay. Create user. Mismatch types, expected type parameter T, where T is the handler. And H is that? Like, oh, H and B? I'm now confused. Expected type parameter T. On that. Consider using impl return type. Okay, so I want impl. Okay, what if I do? Oh, then I won't need generics. Let's try that. Impl handler. Then you need add missing generic argument T. Okay. Okay, and what is that? T B equals body. I don't actually see where clone send size and static. Is that what it is? Can I just pull you in and just say, here, this is what you are? No? Return type was inferred to be blah, blah, blah. Trait objects must include the dyn keyword. Add dyn keyword before this trait. I don't like it. Because now I think I would have to like box it, wouldn't I? I could like box dyn handler like that, right? Asitsu, hello. I am trying to create a higher order function that wraps and returns the create user so I can get the connection in here. But because what I really want to do is like return this thing, return create user here essentially, or rather maybe we need to do more research into Axum. So Axum pass. I want to pass like into handler. Which that's not helpful. Oh, wrapper function that implements handler. There we go. Oh, great. So I need to start doing pin with this. That's going to be fun. Why aren't you passing it into the state? Oh, I totally forgot. You could do that, can't I? Oh man, yeah, that totally blanked. That was something that I can do. Um, uh, let's go back to the lib here. Uh, what was that? That was not here, right? There was Axum server bind, serve app. No, it wasn't this thing. It was in create router layer. I want to do it as a layer. Okay, that's what it is. So I have in here I have my connection. Also found in docs a better way to pass the state in is with router with state instead of router new. Oh, okay. So we're gonna have to look into state next. Okay, so let's go into our README because I've run out of time, so I don't have time to implement this right now. So next up, we want to use state to pass the connection around. I'll just do that. Okay. Well, I have 3 minutes to do my thing, so I'm gonna have to head off for the day. I will not be back tomorrow. I am gonna be traveling, so I won't be able to stream tomorrow. Wednesday, I'm gonna be in an area with really poor, like really weird internet. We're gonna be on satellite, but I want to try streaming anyway, so I'm gonna do my best to stream. uh we'll see like Thursday if I can do that too. If it doesn't work on Wednesday, probably no Thursday stream. Maybe no Friday stream, hard to tell. And then Sunday definitely no stream because I'm Sunday and Monday I'm gonna be traveling again. So basically this week is sort of like hard to tell. So guaranteed I'll be back. Well, I should never say guaranteed. I am gonna do my best to be back on Tuesday next week is when the next actual scheduled stream is going to be, and we're going to continue with this unless we are able to work on it otherwise. So with that, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I will see you next time, whenever that is. Thanks. Bye.